Does jealousy serve a useful purpose? Should we strive to rid ourselves of this emotional response, or does it have some utility?
Utility is all too obvious in some ways. So think about, let's take the simplest version of this. Male sexual jealousy, right? So males who are prone to fear and scenario build around the infidelity of their mates are clearly involved in an exercise designed to discourage cuckoldry, right? And evolution, whether you should care about cuckoldry or not, evolution cares about it very deeply because, of course, what could possibly be more expensive than taking what limited child rearing time any adult has and directing it at the raising of someone else's child who vanished and is unknown to you, and especially when it happens as the result of the deception of one's most intimate partner. There's certainly lots of reasons.
You just look at me like, I just like to point out that this is not what we were fighting about this week.
Absolutely not. But the point is, you don't have to know very much about evolution to see why selection would have programmed men to be very troubled by this possibility, and that this is a issue built into being a mammal. And the reason it's built into being a mammal is because for mammals, copulation and birth are widely separated in time, which makes it much harder to know for certain. So certainty of paternity drops, and you get the evolution of behaviors in which men follow, or males follow females around in order to be more certain. So anyway, the point is, jealousy is an adaptive emotion. Male sexual jealousy is the easiest one to understand. The reason that males and females feel differently about sexual infidelity versus emotional infidelity should be pretty clear too, because the risks that males experience versus the risks that females experience are predictably different. This is why females tend to fear things like abandonment. Males tend to fear sexual infidelity. All of this stuff falls so naturally out of just simply tracking what an individual's genes probably should care about if they're trying to get into the future, that it's a pretty simple puzzle to sort.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there are modern instantiations of jealousy which are harder to interpret, but of course that's basically the hallmark of modernity, right? So I'm thinking, I read, I don't know, an article or a short story or something this week in some magazine, about a woman who was unable to get pregnant, who really desperately wanted a kid. And this is a sort of story that most moderns have heard tell of before, but the woman who's trying and cannot conceive, when she sees pregnant women, when she sees women with babies, when a friend tells her that she's pregnant, she seethes rather than, especially when it's a friend, she's just so mad at herself for not being happy for her friend, but she can't muster it. And, that I can't, we're all familiar with this, even if we've never experienced it ourselves. But I mean, I think most people will recognize that as a framing that some people experience, as being common enough to almost seem like, that's a kind of a human response, right?
Yeah.
Like no one blames the woman in this case, but it does seem a little mysterious to me.
I don't think it's so mysterious.
Okay.
I mean, we got to paint the scenario a little more cleanly to know whether it makes any sense in this case. But if a woman wants a child, that's obviously easy to explain evolutionarily. And if she doesn't have one but wants one, then there are a bunch of things that might be true that she could do something about, and that her jealousy, or at least her dismay, might cause her to do.
At some level, it's envy rather than jealousy, maybe, or I don't know. It's a little bit of a distinction, but
right. But nonetheless, let's say there's some negative emotion that causes the woman to focus on this, and instead of feeling joy on behalf of her friend, she feels troubled, and can't let it go. Right.
Well, and that's going to be the crux, isn't it? It's the can't let it go.
It's the can't let it go. Yeah. And so let's say, for example, that she has no partner, right? It might.
But now you're making it too easy to.
No, I'm just going to say there's a list of things. Okay. In the case of no partner, she might be motivated by the negative emotion that comes with not having a child to lower standards, frankly. Right. So it may be that And that could change.
Yeah, but I mean, the specific situation I was talking about is someone who's mated and trying to get pregnant and can't get pregnant. And so there's some, it appears to be, but I thought this is where you were going. And I guess we can do this all over the place. We can all do, play out all the different lines. But I thought where you were going to go just then with the can't let it go is trying, can't, likely to be one or the other of the people who are trying to make a kid's responsibility, even though they have no ability to change that thing. And so dwelling and really figuring out, okay, I really, really, really want this kid, and oh shit, it's me. What do I do? Or it's not me.
Right. If it's not her,
it's not me.
That's exactly
what do I do then? How much do I want a kid? And how much do I want the guy I'm with who doesn't seem to be able to give me a kid?
Right. Which again fits with the change in standards. It may be that she's happy with the guy, but it doesn't end up with a kid. And if it's him, then replacing him might result in a lower quality guy and a kid. So the basic point is, you got a problem if you can't figure out some way in which the negative emotion could possibly lead to a change in behavior that then potentially augments fitness.
But I do think that the crux there in what you began to explain, and then we were talking about, is negative emotion causes you to slow down and focus, and it can go pathological. Like you can just dwell and dwell and dwell and dwell and not escape from it and be learning nothing. But in general, modernity, including several branches of psychology, would have us immediately flee from any sense of negativity. Any discomfort is bad. Any, reminder of anything that's ever bad has happened to us is bad. And actually, this is backwards. Right. And so, no, we don't want to swing the pendulum all the way to the other side and, find ourselves in the pits of despair and consideration of everything that's wrong with us or our lives or whatever all the time. But spending long enough there that you can't escape from your own self-defense mechanisms and can figure out what that negative emotion actually might have to offer you as a way out of the conundrum you find yourself in is presumably the adaptive advantage.
Yeah. And even if it doesn't cause you to consciously recognize something, it could cause you to get antsy in a relationship that...
it doesn't need to be a conscious recognition.
Yeah.